Here is one of a series of talks by spiritual leader Lola McDowell Lee, spanning 2 decades from the early 70s through the 90s. Lola was a Zen Roshi, whose Rinzai lineage included Dr. Henry Putteth and renowned Zen master Shigetsu Sasaki. Lola was a religious scholar as well as an ordained Christian minister. While the talks are focused mainly on Zen and Buddhism, Lola drew on many spiritual traditions, including those of Jesus, Plato, Lao Tzu, the Hindu Vedas, Meister Eckhart, and Gurdjieff.
On the Wednesday set, on the 12th, I won't be here. Okay? I'm going to read to you out of the Bible, that being that season of the year, and I think we can look toward Christianity somewhat, after all. There's a lot of sin in that. Then came the disciples of John, saying, Why do we and the Pharisees sit often, but thy disciples fast not? And Jesus said unto them, Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then they shall fast. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. Okay?
We scared you?
Sure. The different religious sects that we are acquainted with, or that we hear about, there are many of them. We have a tendency to put ourselves into a religious sect. And I think we should be aware, cognizant of what we're doing as we do, how we're going to be conditioned by putting ourselves into a religious sect, if that's what you're going to do. Because religion can be healthy. Religion can be as healthy as a newborn baby. Yeah. It can be as healthy as a song of a bird early in the morning. It can be as healthy as a newly opening blossom. Or religion can be ill, it can be diseased, it can be dying, it can be shrinking, it can be sad, and it can be just a movement into death. When religion is healthy, you know, there's a song about it. One feels well with it. It has a mystery in it. It has this quality of joy and delight. See, there's a kind of a dancing and a celebration in one. You know, it is what we call life-enhancing. It is life-affirming. Well, when religion is the opposite, when it's ill, you know, it's old and it's dying, then one no longer can celebrate it, because it is in a way kind of life-negating. It shrinks into itself, and it's kind of suicidal. It's not going anywhere. You know of yourself when you're little, you got lots of energy, and it's like you're flowing in all directions. You're kind of like a fountain. There's this story about the old man in the mountain that said, life is a fountain. Yeah, life is a fountain. When you're old, you have a tendency to lose that flexibility. See? And now all you can do is grumble. And when religion in you is alive, just life is enough, And then, because we do realize in here that life is God. Yeah. And life is divine. See? And when religion is ill, then everything becomes ill that you look at and that you talk about and so on. Yeah. Now, we also know that whatever is born into this world must in time depart therefrom. Whatever is born will die. Your ideas come and go. You don't have the same ideas that you did 15 years ago or 10 years ago. Some of our notions, we do change our mind, and that's the death of the old, isn't it? Yeah. So that even a religious tradition, it's born, and it lives for a while, and then if it amounted to pretty much, finally, though, it just sort of sinks into the background. After all, what has happened to the tremendous religion of the Egyptians, which in a way on which Christianity is based. There's a lot of similarities. And then there are the Copts and the Essenes and the Zoroastrians, which you, by the skin of your teeth, almost were. Didn't you know that? No, sure. I'll tell you. This is going to take up time, though. Can you sit 2 minutes longer at the end? Okay. At the time, what's his name? Well, I'll tell you if I can think of his name. What's his name? Constantine, that's right. He was around about 3-something, because it was during his time that they had the Council of Nicaea, which set up the dogma for the church. And there were, 309 bishops and clergymen that attended this Council of Nicaea, 9 of whom could read and write. Anyway, Constantine, there were a lot of little sects running around. Zoroastrianism was one of the main ones, and Christianity was coming up pretty close on its heels. Anyway, the Christians made a deal with Constantine that if he would help them become the main religion, they would in turn help him. And so they made this deal. Constantine became a Christian on his deathbed. But because of him, we are Christians and not Zoroastrians. See, by the skin of your teeth. Strange, isn't it? Little quirks of fate that we have nothing to do with. And here we sit, tied down with them because of the way we think about them. All these shadows in the past. That's what's happened to them. Now, religion can lose its mystery, and then it becomes kind of like a dead body, and the dead body swallows its followers, and so we've got neuroses, and it becomes an abnormality. And you can see it happening. But it's a very strange thing that some people prefer, when they take a sect onto themselves, sometimes they kill it, within themselves. And some people, they prefer to be in a dead religion rather than an alive one, because it's easier to follow the letter of the law than this mysterious unknown. Also, very subtly, we have been taught, very subtly, we have been taught to be afraid. To be afraid of life, and to be afraid of love, and to be afraid of responsibility, and to be afraid of happiness. Somehow we have adopted this conditioning. We have, so every once in a while, this kind of a vague feeling that, there's something wrong with me if I'm happy. We have a kind of a guilt in feeling happy, as if somehow we were sinning because we're happy. Well, you look around, sinners are happy. Saints are sad. Yeah. They're righteous, and they're pious, and they have long faces. Yeah. And as children, we're taught to be more somber, more quiet. We're taught not to jump around like that, not to run so much. Don't shriek. Don't laugh. Don't laugh out loud like that. Sit quietly. Just sit there and be still. If you can't sit there quietly, you go play, but quietly. Almost as if there's something wrong in the energy expressing itself. Of course, it's only a mama or a papa saying, for crying out loud, get me off this hook for a while. Shut up, so I can think. But it comes across differently. And a child, a child is full of energy. And it's told to go sit quietly. But if he's ill, he gets a lot of sympathy. Father comes to his bedside, and the mother stays at his bedside. The relatives come, all very careful about him, all very caring about him. And by he gets this little hint that something must be wrong with all this energy moving around and all this delight in life. There's something good about being ill. After all, that's when he's appreciated. That's when they sympathize with him. When he's jumping up and down and yelling, nobody sympathizes with him. It's all no, 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 no. Healthy, it seems like everyone's against him, and sick, he's got their attention. So it kind of creates something in us, a kind of a deep down guilt that we should not be happy. Because you know what childish minds do funny things with things. Yeah. And then we grow up with this, that then someday we hear maybe about somebody who knows something and they call him a saint, and you go and see him and you see he's laughing out loud at some kind of a joke, and you're shocked. A saint laughing, joking about something? A saint should be very pious. It's okay to laugh in a bar, a pub, or a restaurant, or in a hotel, or in a movie. It's okay to laugh then. But in church, that's not allowed. One should be serious in church. This is serious business, One should be almost corpse-like in being serious. Well, this is the idea somebody has, A lot of people have this. When one tries this turnabout, in themselves, in the seeking, one is turning around, and one is looking for this that we call spirit, the Spirit of God. One's looking for it. What kind of a name does this religion have? What sect does it belong in? No. When somebody becomes, shall we say, brave, has the courage now to look instead of just simply following what somebody else says. then he's religious. He's not a Christian, he's not a Jew, he's not a Krishna. No. And all of these are only sects, organizations. But to be simply religious, one can fit into any religion. One is eclectic, One sees what it is in every religion, in every sect, what they're striving for. It's a different kind of an understanding. It's a different kind of a knowing. It's a different way of seeing yourself in this world. And in this one grows and matures. If only the words, sort of like the means are of any interest, then one is rather calculating. Now, calculating is okay for business, but not in this instance. You're never going to calculate yourself into that spirit. It's a calculating mind, because it's following certain patterns, is a limited mind. And you can go out there and you can know something about a flower by counting the petals, calculating this and this and this. But if you're doing that, you miss the beauty of it. You can count the parts, but you're not going to see the whole of it. And in life, because our minds are limited, and we do walk along this way, we have compensations. We create substitutes for the whole. We're somehow satisfied with parts of it. For instance, love is very real. And it certainly is much better to love something or someone than it is to write poetry about love. There's a difference. One can write poetry about love without knowing very much about it. One is sort of compensating as if they're afraid to put their foot in the water. It's like the young man who came to visit this woman that he was very much enamored with, and they had been separated for quite a while. And, they're sitting outside in the lovely evening, and he's reading to her all the letters he had written while he was gone and hadn't mailed. And he was reading to her all this nice poetry he had written about her, And finally she said, but I'm sitting here. That's a difference, huh? When you love, let it flow. Love can be very transforming. It gives insights into things. It's true that in love there will be many unhappy moments. And there's a lot of anguish that goes with it. But there is also the joy. And this is, of course, how we mature between these two. We have these nights of anguish and the days of joy. And that's part of growing up. Maturing, Now, we all have love in us. You may struggle to find it, but it's in here. How do you go about your daily business? When you go to work, how do you work? Can you work with love or in love? Remember, your world. When you can work with love, then it's like being in meditation all the time, I mean, energy needs work. You've got energy, it needs to work. Otherwise, it's just plain old restlessness. Energy needs an expression. Energy needs to be creative. Creativity is working and it's loving at the same time. It's working with love. An artist paints and he's absorbed with it. He's in love. There's something here with him that, with the thing, he is love. He's creative. A singer sings and a dancer dances. And like Georgia used to say, she says, when I'm dancing, then I know God. Yeah. If it isn't that, if you're just a profession, then it's labor. And it's hard labor sometimes, Somebody like Nijinsky, and how he danced. He could jump so high, that even the scientists became interested in this man. He seemed to go against gravity. And it was all done so gracefully. He would jump so high, and then so slowly he would come down. And they would ask him over and over and over and over again, what's the secret? And he'd say, I don't know. I love to dance. Of course, after he died, they operated on his feet. And he had feet that were built like birds' feet. So he could spring. And they felt that's what gave him the impetus to be able to go so high. But anyway, I don't think that was the all of it. It's, as he said, I love dancing. Yeah. Now, we all work at some kind of a job or another, even if it's only cleaning the house. This is necessary. And it being necessary, you work with love. That is, you learn to hold a focus with the work. As the old master used to say, one day without work is one day without eat. And it's, our little monk, he's sitting out there in the sun. It's a nice day like it is out there today, and he's sitting in the sun. It's all nice and warm, and he turns to his attendant and he says, if I only were working someplace, I could take a holiday. And that's, kind of our attitude. You work just so you can have a holiday. It's usual. But look at all the benefits of working. You don't stop to think about it, but there's a lot of benefits in working and being creative with your work. All nature works. The birds build their nests, and the poor little things, if they make a mistake, they can't rectify the error and go on from there. They have to start in all over again from the beginning. And they feed their young. And they're so happy doing it, chirping and chittering away, it's fantastic. The animals hunt for their food, and they build their little nests, their holes where they can crawl into. And a seed dies, so a flower can grow. Everything is working in nature. And man has created all kinds of jobs in this society. And it is true that some of them are rather boring. So you may need a holiday. But supposing you did that job with a total focus, it might change a lot of things. You do your homework with a total focus. You go to school with a total focus. You do whatever it is that you have to do with a focus of doing it. Maybe it's not so boring anymore because you will see yourself doing it. And then it might get interesting, huh? Yeah. Anyway, this man, Jesus, since he even worked, he learned to trade. He was a carpenter. This man, Jesus, he makes his appearance in this world. and he's healthy, and he's young, and he's vibrant with life. Have to be. Fervently he lived with God. Passionately he wanted everyone to know his Father. And we read that he ate and he drank, and a wine-bibber they called him, you know. How could people believe that he was religious? Fasting should be the case. Yeah. And here he was, feasting. Not at all our idea of a saint or a prophet. So who are you? And so today, how do they depict him? How many laughing pictures have you ever seen of Jesus? Contented and well-being. No, he's sad-looking and he's respectable. He lived his religion, and he died with his religion. Not fasting. And John the Baptist now, who knew who he was when he came to the river Jordan, and said of him, he is the one who cometh after me, whose shoelaces I am not worthy to tie. Did he drink wine and feast? No. He ate insects and honey, and he dressed in skins, animal skins. And his disciples were ascetic, and they were fasting, and they were praying. And so they came to him, Then came to him the disciples of John the Baptist, saying, why do we and the Pharisees fast often, but thy disciples fast not? Well, we have this thing in religion about fasting and celibacy. Now, our existence depends on food and procreation. If you fast too often and too much, you'll die. Something in you dies if you don't die altogether. And if you become a celibate, you cut the passage for the future generations. See, something dies. Yeah. Now, fasting does not create energy. You live on a starvation level, and you'll see how much energy you've got. Not much. There's a very minimum of energy is created, and that you need for just plain old day-to-day living. In fact, if you're really fasting, you shouldn't even get out of bed, because you'll use the energy you need to stay alive. See? And what's left over then for seeking for yourself? You never have any energy to spare, not even for a good laugh. Even to laugh, you need energy. For dancing, you need energy. For celebrating yourself, you need energy. And what Jesus said, rejoice. Delight in life. Delight in life can be a prayer of gratefulness. It can be a prayer of thankfulness, just delighting that you're alive. Life should be a feast, not a fast. But he said, I will give you the life more abundant. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and they shall fast. You see, right away, he brings them to the point, a totally different level of looking at the thing. The disciples want to know about food and about rules and about regulations and what to wear and what to eat, and Jesus points immediately to the Spirit. When the bridegroom is in the house, when the Christ is in the house, there is no question of mourning. You want me to say, when the Buddha nature is very present, does that fit you better? Who mourns? who fasts? You know. Who is sad? When it's all together with you? Is that when you sit? Are you sad? Oh no, you come in rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Yeah. The children of the bride chamber dance, enjoy. The bridegroom is with them. Yeah, he was there with them. See? But in the days when the bridegroom shall be taken away from them, then shall they fast. See? If the Christ be not with them, it is a time for mourning. See, he's already beginning to allude that he isn't going to, there's time is going to come when he isn't going to be there. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with Meister Eckhart. Some of his work has been translated, not all of it. There was a book by Evans translated back in 18-something, and of course the one we're most familiar with is this one by Blakeney, I think his name is. Anyway, he is very often called the Lao Tzu of the West. He is a good Buddhist, Zenist, I should say, Taoist. He really is. I'm going to read you a little bit from one of his sermons. And he reads from Luke, chapter number 10, which in the King James Version, the Schofield Version, King James, it says in there, "Now it came to pass, as they went, that he entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha received him. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet. Now, Eckhart's translation, the same verse, he reads in the Latin, and then from his Bible, and then where he got his Bible, I don't know, I'd like to see it. And of course, we don't know how much our Bible has been mistranslated, because certainly not everyone who worked on translating the Bible knew what it was all about. They were scholars, right? So, anyway, Eckhart says, he quotes this thing in Latin. He says, "I have read a text from the Gospel, first in Latin, which means in English, our Lord Jesus Christ went into a little castle," that's the village, "went into a little castle and was received by a virgin, Martha, who was a wife, Mary." It's a very different picture on that thing, doesn't it? Our Lord Jesus Christ went into a little castle and was received by a virgin who was a wife. It must be that which receives the bridegroom is virgin. And that simply means the individual is free of conditioning. See, to be as free of conditioning as you were before you existed. So here comes this nice koan, before your father and mother were what was your original face. To be free of conditioning. How? How is one going to get there? How can one, once being born and launched into this conditioned existence, how can one be devoid of ideas as if they did not exist? See, and this is little Nicodemus' question, too. He was so far from understanding, he says, should I creep back into my mother's womb? And he's an old man of 70, so the whole thing was impossible for him. How to be free? How to be free of conditioning? How to be free of yourself? See? And the ancients, we see it written much, if there is no attachment to. See, this is why it's so necessary to watch yourself. No attachment to love and no attachment to hate. No attachment to greed, no attachment to jealousy. No attachment. See? So that all of these ideas and feelings that I have, I do not regard them as mine. They are not mine. Oh, I have this wonderful feeling about God. No, it's not mine. And comes this will, and all of a sudden it is the will of God and not mine at all. And there comes this love, and it's not yours at all. It is God. No attachment, so that you can experience these things that are present to be experienced, To be free and empty in this now moment. Then I could be a virgin. I mean, it's there, this virgin territory in everyone. If the individual, like the bridegroom is free, if one is free and pure and himself virgin, like a babe, the innocence of a baby, as the authorities say, like to like, this is the condition of unity. The virgin you and the virginity or innocence of Christ. This is union. The bridegroom cometh. However, see, Meister Eckhart goes on to say this, to remain virgin forever is never to bear fruit. To be fruitful, it is necessary to be a wife. The connection has to be made in the unity of the virgin Christ and the virgin soul. So, gifts that are received in virginity, and they are tremendous, but they may be not brought to birth in wifely fruitfulness. They decay and come to nothing. And he says, married people seldom bear fruit more than once a year. But there are those who are married to fasts, to vigils, and to all sorts of external chastisements. This sort of practice limits your freedom to wait upon the bridegroom in this now present moment. And when he comes, you must be free enough to follow him into the light. And he says that any such premeditated practice that limits your inner freedom, he says, I shall now call married life. Isn't he delight? Yeah. In that kind of married life, your soul will bring forth no fruit other than the chastisement to which you are so anxiously committed, and you will trust neither yourself nor God. In other words, you won't find any peace. You're not going to find any understanding. For no one can be fruitful until he has done his own work. And a virgin who is a wife accomplishes this birth. She bears fruit. The mother bears Mary, The Egyptian word for Mary we can trace back to the Egyptian times, It comes from the word mother. She bears fruit out of the ground in which the Father begets his eternal word. For Christ is the light and the shine of the paternal heart. Or as St. Paul puts it, he is the glory and reflection of the Father's heart. It is the power shining through. Christ is united with the virgin soul, and she with him. And then she is illumined and radiates him as the one and only pure, clear light of the Father. Now, Eckhart also emphasizes often. He says often, there is an agent in the soul. And sometimes he says there is a point in the soul. There's a little point in the soul. Or again, sometimes he'll say there's a little spark in us that is untouched by time or flesh, which proceeds out of the Spirit and remains forever in the Spirit and is completely spiritual. The little castle. Huh? Yeah. Last week we were going along about something and we said that Jesus retreated into himself to rejoice. He rejoiced in spirit. That's a little different than, how can I tell you that? Rejoicing in spirit is different than, let's skip it. I can't tell you. Huh? Yeah. But in this point, or in this agent, in this spark, this little flame in us, God is perpetually flowering in all his joy and glory. Yeah? That's where the Son is born. Now, the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken away, and then shall they fast. Well, when this seeking religion, or call it religion or just call it seeking, when it's alive in you and you're going with it, there isn't any question of fasting. You don't even think about it. It's time to be grateful. It's time to be thankful. It's time to dance and sing. It's time to rejoice. And he says it again and again. Rejoice. Don't die to yourself. Rejoice. You die to yourself, you die to the bridegroom. What are you doing with yourself? Rejoice. No man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment. For that which is put in to fill it up, taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, and the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. When there has come about a unity in this soul's agent, in this little spark, there is a unity now in this point. This is the beginning of wifehood. And St. Paul put it, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds. That you've stepped aside from your conditioning. You have stepped aside, whoever you are, huh? Yeah. You have stepped aside from the content of the psyche and have found this center, and you have found the unity in this center. You've put off the old man, and St. Paul says, and have put on the new man. That is, you're totally in that unity. The new man that is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. We got a new bottle and a new wine. And to this he said, St. Paul did, I die daily. Let the old bottle go so the new bottle will live. Not trying to put new wine into an old bottle, but realizing there is a new bottle. New wine for a new bottle, the new man. Also, you know, in saying the prayer that Jesus taught to his disciples, Our Father which art in heaven, you know, the little castle, of course, is heaven. It's here in this spark. Then we come to this, give us this day our daily bread. Well, we need bread for daily life, of course. We need a little extra to help our neighbor too, you know, so. But this daily bread, the daily dying, the feeding of the soul, the feeding of this union, bread is union. It's wholeness. So give us this day our daily bread. Not only that I may eat here, but that which is in the new bottle eats also. You understand? However, in all of our striving to understand ourselves, one excellent way is to observe our projections. We have projections of God. We have projections of religion. We have projections of hate. We have projections of love. You know, when you fall in love with someone, usually it is you project onto that person what you expect to find. Now, if the love that you have, if there is some love in you for the spiritual, you will in time become spiritual. Because loving something, you know, by and by the object of the love, you take it back, and that love transforms you. It changes you. It seems then as if you and the object mesh. And if you hate something, it's the same thing. You become that which you hate. So the ancients spoke, you know, and I know some people misunderstand it greatly. They spoke about leaving love and hate behind, or being not attached to love or hate. Well, we must learn to care, you know. And they say, no, leave it alone. Being free of love and hate. This is a seesaw. To move from one extreme to the other. And, you know, if you're doing that, hate becomes fairly easy. And so, people become very cruel to each other. You know that the cruelty of people. Tolstoy tells of a time he used to go to the theater with his mother, and they'd have these plays. And he came from a wealthy family, and it would be in the winter time, and he'd sit there and he'd watch his mother cry over these tragedies that happened on the stage. And first he thought, gee, she's got a lot of caring. And he came to realize she didn't care at all. This was just substitute for her own life. Because he did finally come to notice as a young boy that here it would be the depth of winter in Russia. They'd go to the theater, and then he'd come out again. And there's the driver sitting up there from their troika, waiting to take them home again. And, of course, admonished that he had to stay right there because she didn't want to spend any time out in the cold any more than necessary. And he'd sit there and be frozen to death. They'd kick him off and get another one and go on home. And Tolstoy would realize, that all this emotion in the theater didn't amount to a hill of beans. It was for her a substitution for the lack in her own life. Yeah. People also don't realize, it seems to me, that cruelty is costly. Violence comes back just as well as anything else. Because you get very angry and you spit in the sky. And guess what? All over your face. Huh? And you plan and you plot, so that you dig a ditch for somebody else to fall into. And guess who winds up in it? Yeah. And I've often talked about, this cruelty to oneself we seem to perpetuate with this long face. There's a group of Christians in New Mexico. There's also one in Russia. They flagellate themselves. They beat each other until they're bleeding, And they say that that's their prayer. So one wonders what kind of a God they've got. And what image are they having inside of themselves? It's like they're saying to God, we're not happy. Have mercy on us. We're sad. We're in misery, and they make themselves more miserable. Have mercy on us. And then Jesus says a very enigmatic thing. If you have, more will be given you. If you do not have, even that shall be taken away. And that I'm going to leave with you too. Figure it out. Think about some of these things. And in Christian communities around the world through the ages, men used to castrate themselves. They cut off their genital organs as a sacrifice to God. Didn't know what else to do with his sex drive. Well, that was St. Augustine's problem, God rest his soul. He did this to prove to himself that, and I guess to God, that he was spiritual. Besides, a woman would go by and that's the end of the meditation. Another woman would go, he had a bad time with it, so it ended his spiritual career, practically. They fast, and they're celibate. Watch your own life, watch the images that you have, and watch the images that you project. When you say God, what do you mean? What do you mean? What is God to you? And we can say, there stands the green trees and the red flowers and the white clouds and the blue sky, and all those colors are mine. Yeah. And we've got sparkling stars in a midnight blue, and they were beautiful the other night with the crescent moon. And this heart within. Yeah. What about the heart within? Joy? Just joy that you're alive? Love life, Jesus says, and rejoice. You're alive. You're living God. And you go deeper and deeper and deeper in yourself. And suddenly one day you're going to find that God is revealed in every stone. The Buddha nature on thousands of blades of grass in the morning sun. Oh, yeah. You know, when you're thirsty, God is thirsty with you. The thirst is God. You seek God. With what do you seek? God. The quenching of the thirst is God. What is to be renounced and have a long face and fast? What for? For what reason should you fast when you should be rejoicing? And you should be rejoicing, for no man knoweth the hour wherein the bridegroom cometh. Oh, no. The one thing about the bridegroom, he is ever present. We just don't see him. Okay, I'm sorry I was so boring today. But I have to make you stretch a little bit now and then, I guess. And now may the peace and the power that passeth all understanding hold us and keep us in the love of the Christed consciousness while we are seemingly separate one from another. And I do thank you very much.
If you find Lola's talks valuable, more will be posted in weeks to come.